Welcome to the Inspired Riding Podcast. I'm your host, Beth Lauren Parrish. As a certified riding instructor, remote coach, and rapid transformational therapy practitioner, a powerful form of hypnotherapy, I'm here to remind you to slow down, trust your intuition, and really deeply listen to your horse. And this will make for the best co-creative dances possible, whether you're on the ground or connecting on their backs. Thank you so much for being here, and here we go. Hello there, Inspired Riders. Today I'll be interviewing Deanna Preis. Deanna Preis is a trainer and advocate of the horse, focusing on healthy movement and happy horses. She is located in Southern Illinois in the United States. She has a bachelor's of science degree in biological sciences, as well as many equine-specific anatomy courses and classical training programs. She draws from them to help support the horse and keep them moving and working in a way that will help them stay healthy and comfortable well into old age. Thank you so much, Deanna, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I'm really eager to talk about riding confidence. So our first question is, what are some of the key elements you believe help riders to feel confident for riding?
Well, I think there's always multiple pieces of the puzzle, and it takes different professionals to keep our horses comfortable. You know, we don't have the farrier come do the saddle fitter's job or the saddle fitter do the body worker's job. They all come together to create comfort in the horse, and they all have a very specific task. So I think what you're doing with rider mental state is super valuable and it's very important. And I feel like what I do with building confidence is also just another piece of the puzzle. So I find that empowering riders to have the knowledge of behaviors and understanding why the horse is doing something, and this gives the rider the tools for their problem-solving toolbox to build confidence. Because if we don't understand why things are going wrong, then that can feel very helpless.
And what has helped you build your confidence with your riding or in life?
Well, I think by nature, I'm a confident person. You know, we see that in siblings and littermates, that some people are just born more confident and others, maybe they're a bit more reserved or more hesitant. So I do feel like I was born fairly confident, but also just having knowledge and experience. Because I think, you know, if I come across a problem and I think, yes, I've seen this before and I know how to handle this and things won't be like this forever, that just eases my mind, which then makes me more confident.
Love that so much. So how do you specifically help riders to become more confident in your lessons?
Well, I help them create a more balanced horse, because horses that are more physically balanced will be less spooky, less reactive, less brushy, because the horse's mental state is directly related to their physical posture, the physical quality of their movement. It's the same in the rider. But if I can help a horse become more equal, right to left, more ambidextrous, this will certainly help. Because just like us, you know, we're right-handed or left-handed. We also have a dominant leg, we have a dominant eye, a dominant ear, a dominant side of our mouth that we chew on. The horse is the same way. And so they're crooked by nature. And if we help them to find more balance with their using their limbs more equally, and then shifting some of that weight back, because they're born heavy on the forehand. If we can help them to use their body better, it's going to make them more balanced physically and then more balanced mentally. So like I said, less spooking, less reactive to their environment, and then they won't rush because they're more physically balanced. And so this all makes the rider feel more confident because they have a much more pleasant horse to ride. And then it also has the side effect of the horse lasting longer with less maintenance.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. I was just working with a client recently, and this horse tends to rush and lean a little bit one way. So we ended up having them move the shoulders back and forth very gently. And that really made a huge difference in the transitions. The horse became so much softer and more balanced. So I'm so glad that you address that and really get to the heart of the issue.
Yeah, and it really is the shoulders, because the emotions live in the shoulders, and they're all heavy in the shoulders. Sometimes they're heavy in both shoulders, or sometimes they just chronically fall into one shoulder. And so the more we can address that, it will just help everything and will help them last longer and help them be more mentally balanced.
Would you mind talking me through, especially for the listeners, let's just say a horse is leaning to the right. What specifically would you have them do in the moment to help them? Like, just say they're on a walk circle to the right.
Yeah, so say they're like, you said they're leaning to the right, so they're falling into the circle?
Yes.
Yeah. So chances are, in a horse that's falling to the right, the muscles on the left side of the body are going to be shorter and more contracted. And the ones on the right are going to be, they're falling to the right. Yeah. So the ones on the right side then are going to be lengthened and they're going to be a bit weaker. So if we can start to get that horse to stretch through its body laterally, so we start to lengthen the muscles on the outside of the body, on the left side in this case, then the horse won't be able to just all of a sudden bend to the right. It's like if I come to you and I say, okay, today you're doing the split, then you're like, oh, I am not prepared for that. And so when you have, trainer that's like, pull his head to the right and kick him in the ribs, all the horse is going to do is compensate. They're going to tilt their head. They're going to give you that flexion. I say that with air quotes, in whatever way they can to accommodate, to get rid of the pressure, but they're not doing it in a healthy way. And they're still most likely falling in on that right shoulder. So if we can start to lengthen those muscles over time on the outside of the body, on the stiff side, then the horse will be able to accommodate that request more easily. And so it just takes time. So maybe if the horse is really crooked, we strive for being a bit straight, and then we strive to get a right bend. And we want to look to see where the hind legs are stepping as well. Because if the hind legs are really stepping to the side of the horse, so that horse that's falling into the right, into its right shoulder, that right hind may not really be coming under the horse. It may be stepping next to the horse's body instead of under. And so it can be that the horse doesn't have the flexibility through their body laterally, but it could also be that they don't have the strength and coordination in their right hind to support their weight, and that's why it's all falling into the right shoulder. And so I certainly give some of these exercises in my online course, and then I show some video of doing it in the moment and talking through it, voicing over and playing things back. But that's why it's important to really have a trained eye to go over it with you, because if you don't really know where the problem is, then you practice and then you're not getting the results you want to see. And that can be frustrating because you're like, I've been wasting all this time and spending all this money on stuff and I still have the same problem. So sometimes it's just making this little tweak that you need that experienced eye to come in and say, it's not so much that the right shoulder's a problem, it's that the right hind is the problem.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And it's so important to remind people you can't fix it in one ride.
Right.
It's
right,
a gradual
exactly. And
thing.
some of these horses have been moving like this for 10, 15, 20 years. They can't just change it overnight. You have to remind them. But it's amazing that when you work them, if you're working them properly, you will notice it starts to last. Like my horse kind of has this tendency to want to stand like a little bit of a goat on a mountain with the legs angled, the front legs angled back and the hind legs angled under. And if I haven't been working him, he will kind of start to get back into that stance. But if I work him and I come out and I see him standing at the gate, he's standing square. And it's so nice. You just have to remind him a little bit, but he still spends the other 23 and a half hours a day, most days of the week, standing there in better posture because I have reminded him and helped him find this balance on his own, which you can't do that if you're forcing them in a position with side reins, draw reins, backward acting hand. They're not finding the balance on their own. They're contorting into something that they think you want. And if you think you're happy with it, then everybody thinks they're winning, but the horse is really losing in the long run because it's just damaging their body.
Yes, thank you so much for saying that. I'm a big advocate of no gadgets, no quick things. We have to take our time. We have to allow the horse to find the right place. You have to keep experimenting and literally breathing with the horse and finding your way. So that's so beautiful. I'm so glad that you have that philosophy.
Yeah. Well, I kind of equate like side reins. Side reins are the bane of my existence. So you said you do yoga. If you do chair pose, you know what chair pose is? You kind of sit back, you keep your knees so they're not poking forward over your toes, and you sit like you're sitting in a chair. yeah, I can do chair pose, no problem. But these are now side reins. And you say, okay, chair pose for the next 20 minutes, right? Because how long do people put side reins on? They lunge their horses for 10, 20, 30 minutes. If you put me in chair position for 20 minutes, I will start giving you something that looks like chair pose because I will have to start alleviating muscles that get fatigued. And that's what horses in side reins do. And so if you don't have that trained eye, you still think, oh yeah, their head's down, it's great. But it's very, very detrimental to their back and getting the hind legs actually to function and carry weight.
That's a great analogy. And you can actually feel the pain in that. It's really, it's not easy to see in chair pose anyway. So
yeah. Well, and the head and neck has to oscillate. It has to move. Yeah. This is how the horse is designed to move. Even in collection, the horse's head and neck have to oscillate, especially at the walk, especially at the canter. So if you're going to use side reins, which I highly do not recommend, the only gait that you could use them at would be trot. And I don't think they're effective anyway. But when I see people using them at walk and canter, all they're doing is damaging the base of the horse's neck, the horse's back, and the horse's hocks and stifles.
Yeah, it's a big old mess. But thank you for saying that. Yes.
I will always say that. You don't have to thank me.
Yes. Do you have any stories you'd like to share about yourself or a client around the process of building confidence for riding?
Yeah. So, my gray horse, Gustavo, I bought him as a yearling, sight unseen. And well, first of all, the hauler called me the day before and she was like, your baby needs to get off this trailer. I was like, okay. And so she got here and unloaded him, and it was like the Tasmanian devil. Like I was just holding on to him because he was trying to go over stall walls. He was trying to go over fences. Anywhere we put him, he was just losing his mind. So I was holding on to him for 3.5 hours. Like my right arm is like actually longer than my left now, I swear. I called my vet and I was like, can you come sedate him? Like, I have to come up with a different game plan. I don't even know what to do. So from the moment he got off the trailer here, I've been having to think outside the box, go to plan B, C, D, through the alphabet. That he has always had me thinking outside the box because he, by nature, was not born confident. He was very high anxiety, super reactive. I think he was probably weaned too early. And physically, his physical balance, he was so uncoordinated. He couldn't even walk down a little bit of a slope, a little incline or decline, because he would just explode because he didn't know what to do with his legs. And it's weird because I had purposefully bought a horse that was living out in a herd with other horses on different terrain, but he just couldn't handle his body. And so this went on for a while because I wasn't in any hurry to start him. And I was quickly realizing that he settled in some, but he would still have these moments, even just in the pasture, where something would set him off and he would get so panicky. And I didn't know how to help this horse. I didn't have the tools I needed. And I certainly didn't know anybody that I trusted to go to with a horse like this, because these are the kind of horses that end up in bad situations. So initially he kind of wrecked my confidence, but maybe, the universe gives you what you need and not what you want. And so maybe this was just to lead me on different paths and explore different options, because that's what he's done. And so now I feel like I have all these extra tools for my toolbox that I can take them to other people, because now the universe gives me these difficult horses that before I probably wouldn't have been able to help. So that was a huge confidence builder for me.
And how is he now?
And then, how is he now?
Yeah.
Well, he's still no kid's horse, But last week it was like super windy here, like 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And it wasn't terribly windy when I got on, but like shortly after I got on, it started really gusting. And I was riding outside, where before he could have never handled that. And then yesterday, actually, I was just sitting with him and he just laid down and went into REM sleep, like where they twitch. And that's really a special thing. Like when a horse feels like they can relax and go into REM sleep with you there, it's just really special. So he doesn't have these moments where he comes unglued anymore. He's certainly still a spicy horse, a reactive horse. He can get overstimulated, but not, in our daily life anymore. He's fine, actually. So, he's living his best life.
So he showed up to help inspire you to learn more and gain more tools so you can build your confidence and help others do the same.
That has 100% been his job, for sure.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then this has been actually many years ago, a lady messaged me, and she was a mature horsewoman. She had been doing this for quite some time. She had seen it all. And she was creeping on me on Facebook for like a year before she reached out to me because she was skeptical. All these trainers that come and tell her to do these things to her horse that she did not agree with, nor would she be willing to do, which is good for her. So she messaged me and she said, yeah, walk and trot is fine, but my problem is at canter. So I told her, it's always hard when I don't actually see the horse and what's going on, but pretty much all the time, that problem is there at walk and trot. It's just manageable because it's subtle. But it's when it gets compounded with the speed of cantering that then we think, oh, now here's where the problem is. It's in canter. So, the first time I came out there, she's like, okay, we're just doing this one time. Like, I'm not promising that you're going to be coming out here regularly. And I'm like, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Let's see what we can do. And, he didn't want to go to the left. He would go to the left, but, he was really hard on the bit and he would really fall into the left. And he's now since passed away because he was in his 20s already when I met him. And, she'll tell you that after a while, he was actually better to the left than he was to the right. And so, again, that gave me confidence that even an older horse can still benefit from this, because sometimes you don't know. You think, I've done this a lot of times, but I haven't done it with this set of parameters or experience or age, whatever it is. So that was a really cool story as well.
That's so beautiful. And it's so heartwarming to know that we can still help these oldies but goodies. I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
Deanna, what do you think holds riders back from being their most confident selves?
So I thought about this, and I think there's three things. One, I think, is self-doubt and negative thinking. And that's where you come in, because so many of us have this negative voice in our head, or someday I will, or I wish I could, or whatever. But as far as we know, we only have this one life, and it's really short. And so I just want people to be like, take the bull by the horn. Yes. And then lack of physical fitness, I think for sure. And maybe this is something that our society doesn't want to say, because now we have to say that everything is okay. But it's just a fact. Like, these are big, fast animals that can act unpredictably at times. And if you have a body that can't keep up with that is very unsettling. And I know I felt like that after I had my daughter and I started riding again, just because my muscles had been through so much in my core and I just didn't feel stable. And I remember, going back to work, that's what I do for a living, and thinking, if this horse spooks, I don't think I'm going to be able to stay with this horse. And my hips were so painful and uncomfortable that I just really didn't feel really very confident until I started having the time to get back into shape, because it doesn't just happen. I mean, no matter what it is, whether you've just had a baby or an accident or you've just gotten out of shape, it doesn't happen quickly. But it really is a good confidence boost, I think. And it also gives you this empathy for your horse. So like when you have sore muscles and you've done a little bit too much, then you think, maybe this is how my horse feels whenever the weather turns nice and I decide to go on a 3-hour trail ride, and he's been a couch potato all winter. So I think it's a good perspective to feel some of the things that we ask our horses to do. The third thing that I think affects rider confidence is lack of knowledge of what's causing the problems and how to solve it. And so then that's where I come in and try to give people the tools they need to address whatever issues they're having.
That's brilliant. I love that trifecta. And when you when you have all three, it all comes together. And
yes, for sure.
I'm a huge advocate of staying fit. I love being able to know that I can be the best rider for my pony and know that he can carry me confidently because my body feels its best. And I totally understand. I mean, I've had 5 different surgeries over the years, and it took me quite a long time to build up my confidence with my thoughts, with my energy, and with my body. So even if my body was ready to ride, I still had to work on my confidence to feel just right, knowing that I was ready to do things. So if anyone out there is just building themselves up, just know it takes time, but it is possible. So I just wanted to remind people that it is really imperative to just keep your body moving however you can. So, for example, I do weight training, Pilates, yoga, Zumba, and I dance around my pony, and we do Liberty, and I run over poles with him on the ground, and we have a blast. And so whatever you can do to just keep your body moving and literally pretend like you're a horse as well. I love that analogy you gave, because you will develop a lot more empathy, because you're going to go, oh yeah, I did a little extra weights over my head. No wonder my shoulders are sore today, So we've got to just keep pushing towards feeling our best, and also knowing when to rest. And that's really important.
Yeah, and it's not about being a certain size. It's finding something that you enjoy. Like if you don't enjoy, like say you're like, man, I really hate Zumba. Like that is not the exercise for you. Like find something you enjoy, because also it's good for healthy aging, and that whether you're going to continue to ride or not, just it's all about having quality of life and not quantity of life. So what's the point of living super long if it's not good quality?
Totally. Good point. Yes. We want to live a long time just like our horses and be the best we can for them.
Yeah.
Deanna, what do you wish every rider would believe about themselves?
I wish everyone would believe that you don't have to fit into anyone else's standards. I don't care if everyone else at the barn is doing X, Y, Z, they're jumping, they're showing, and they just think you're playing with your horse. I don't care. And you shouldn't care either. Like you're not paying forward and taking care of this horse and doing all this self-work to please anyone but yourself. So just don't worry about fitting into standards, because I know so many people come to me and they think, oh, well, I don't do all that fancy stuff. No, it's all fancy stuff, Just because you're not fitting into someone else's standards doesn't mean what you're doing is not important.
I love that so much. And it's all about just following your heart, what feels right to you, and what your horse gives you permission to do. And that's the key, is just to keep that conversation going with your intuition and deeply listening to your horse. And then whatever transpires from there, as long as you're both having fun, everyone else can just do their thing, and you don't have to have any concern about them. My grandmother...
I have a lot of people too that they feel guilty because they're not riding their horse. Like either the person just doesn't want to ride, or the horse has some issues that they just don't feel it's appropriate to ride the horse. And, their friends are like, what do you mean you have a horse and you don't ride it? Like, why would you do that? And I say, you know what? You tell them, you say, oh, you have a dog. What does your dog do? Does it do search and rescue? Does it pull a dog sled? Does it work for the canine unit? No? Oh, you have a dog because you enjoy having a dog? That's a very novel idea. And it's okay if you just want to play with your horse. It's absolutely okay.
I love that. That's so true. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was about to say my grandmother had this saying, if people don't like you or don't like what you're doing, you can just say, F them all.
I like your grandma. She sounds like mine.
She's super spicy, and it always makes me laugh and become more empowered, because I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm having fun and I'm going to shine my light, and then others will see that. They'll either enjoy it as well or go do their own thing, and that's totally cool. Yep.
And life feels so much better when you just don't care.
Yes, exactly. So good. So thinking of feeling better, when do you feel the most confident in your life?
I think I probably feel the most confident when I'm teaching. I just love being a fresh set of eyes and coming in and looking at something that someone's been dealing with for months or years and saying, you know what, I'm just walking into this and you've been looking at it. Sometimes when you look at the same problem, you don't see it. But when I can walk in and say, let's make these changes and see how it helps you, and then they have big results, then that makes me feel really good, which that always helps build confidence. And I'll even notice that when I'm teaching, like when I'm doing a clinic and things are back to back, that I just don't even notice that I'm hungry or that I need to go to the bathroom, or at the end of the day that I was not standing in the best posture and now my back is bothering me. I don't notice these things because I'm so in the moment and enjoying it. And that's just, I don't know, that's a really cool feeling to just be so present with what you're doing that other things don't really matter. And I think that helps me feel confident.
It truly is the best feeling. I love it as well. It's fun to get my hands in the clay and see those aha moments with the horse and the human.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you'd like to share that I haven't asked you?
Yeah, I think that people often underestimate the small things and how they can make big changes. Like what you do with being present and appreciative and just pausing, that's super valuable. And it's easy to do. You know, that's not a big change. It's just bringing awareness to it. And the same thing, I think people often think I'm going to come in and ask them to do hard things, you know, and I'm not. Like the answer is never more leg. I'm here to tell you, it's never more leg. It's always do less. Let's do less. Let's stop being so busy. Let's just try making this little change to what you're already doing. So maybe it's something they're already doing. They're like, let's just tweak it a little bit and see what happens. And that's where I see the biggest changes come in. So it's just little things. Don't think that you're stuck in where you are because you don't have the funds or the ability to make changes, because these changes are really small. But when you start seeing them and building on them, then you have big results.
I love that. Speaking of all that, do you also teach remotely?
I do. So what I do for my remote lessons is I just have people film what it is they're having problems with. So if they're having, you know, behavioral issues or their groundwork issues or their riding issues, or they want to work on liberty, something like that, they can just film it and then we'll meet on Zoom and we can go through it together. And it's great doing it that way because then I can play back moments. So I can say, oh, do you see right here is actually where it started to go wrong, but then you didn't get to addressing it till here. And then this is why the horse didn't change. But once I point out, look here, they're like, oh, I see that, because you have this like third party perspective, which is so much easier than when you're in the moment and the trainer's like, there, did you see that? And they're like, yeah. Did you feel that? Yeah. But on video, you can see it. And then I think when you see it, then you will notice it more when you go back and practice on your own. And I know for me, like I love live lessons, but like for myself, but I honestly think I get more out of virtual. My trainer's in Germany, so I do virtual lessons like once a month with her, and then she's here twice a year. But I can go out in the arena and it's quiet. Like I don't have someone talking. I'm not distracted. It's just me and my horse, and I can apply those things. So for me, I really like that. And my virtual lessons too, I will pull up like video clips. I have a whole folder of little clips of things that come up quite often in lessons, and I will show them with my horse, and then I try this little exercise and see if this helps to change that a little bit for you. So yeah, I do the in-person and the virtual lessons, and I travel for clinics, and then I have the online library.
That's fantastic. I love that. How can people get in touch with you, and is there an offer you'd like to share about?
Yes, for sure. So people can find me on Facebook at Deanna Preis Horsemanship at Shade Tree Stables. My last name Price is spelled Preis, but if you type in Shade Tree Stables on Facebook, you should be able to find it. Or you can go to my website, 𝙬𝙤𝙧𝙨, and I have a few free videos on there, some of my other podcast interviews that people can listen to. And if you want to sign up for emails, I do send out an email about once a month with any kind of upcoming events, any discounts, and I try to give out a free video about once a month for the people that are subscribed. So that actually went out yesterday. If anyone wants to message me or email me, I'm happy to send them that free video that went out. And for the viewers, I have a coupon code, inspired for inspired writing, and it is for 20% off my online library. The 20% off is good until the 10th of March, because I want to give a special discount to those who are your early bird listeners. And then after that, it'll still be a 10% discount for the online library, which is only $165. And there's all sorts of information in there. So I have 6 classes in there that are talking about things like what bending and collection actually are, because there's a lot of misconceptions And so we want to look for it in a healthy way and what's actually happening in the horse's body. I have theory classes on anatomy, especially of the horse's neck, because that's inadvertently damaged quite often with riding. How to train your eye for this proper movement. There's a class on our energy and how we feel and how that affects our horses. There's also a video on addressing the mental state and motivating the horse. And another one talking about the laterals. So I will use the lateral movements to help strengthen horses and to supple horses. And I think sometimes that can feel overwhelming for people if they don't have a dressage background. But even if they have a dressage background, I think sometimes they haven't been taught what the horse is actually doing and the benefits of that exercise. So I really break it down and demystify the laterals. Then there's also classes on getting started with liberty, how to teach your horse to safely tie, saddling the young horse. So I have my coming 4-year-old stallion, and I'm just documenting everything I do with him from the very beginning so people can see what it looks like, all these exercises too, not on a horse that already does them, but on a horse that is learning. Because I think some of these online courses, they're showing you things with horses that can already do it, which is great. But for those of us out in the trenches, they're like, oh, my horse isn't doing that. How do I get them to do that? I show you with my young horse who had the shoulder imbalance. He's right now a 3-year-old stallion. He loves to put everything in his mouth, occasionally me. So we also have a module on dealing with undesired behavior. As I start him, I will add those videos in there. And there's groundwork, getting started with groundwork. And then I have the story of my 31-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred who passed away in 2022. And he was, I had him for 17 years, and he was fantastic. He was always the first one to meet you at the gate. He never pinned an ear. He would always stand by the mounting block. He was just happy to do his job. But he did not have great conformation, and he had a really asymmetrical pelvis. And so I could see things in his body, and there were things that I speculated in his body that I thought, I'm really surprised that you are happy to be doing things. You know, we just kept him moving. He lived out, you know, when the weather was bad, he had a stall, but otherwise he stayed out. And he was really quite sound his whole life. But when he passed away, I composted him, and I wanted to take a look at some of those things that I had so many questions about. And his pelvis, like I said, was super asymmetrical. So to see, because I would palpate him too, and there were things that didn't make sense on palpation. But now that I see what his sacrum had to do in order to accommodate that crooked pelvis, it makes sense on what I was feeling and some other things that I was feeling. And then there was a really big surprise with one of his hind legs that when you go back and look at the video, because I have a video in there of how he moved during life, it really makes a lot of sense. And it was just, I'm so glad I did it, because it's just kind of a gift to know these things. So maybe when I see horses in the future, obviously I can't diagnose anything and we don't know, but there was a lot of things in him that were so deep that we don't have the diagnostics to do, at least not realistically. So I just think it was really cool. And I had thought about this actually long before he passed. You know, I had kind of already come to terms with this, that someday when he goes, I would like to look at this. And then it's a year after they pass away that you compost them, that, you know, the emotions had time to settle and everything. And so I just think it's really cool because so many people have continued to learn from him now in this online course, and in the veterinarians that worked on him and the farrier that worked on him. So many of these other professionals are like, that is really amazing. Like looking back at I keep all the records of everything. And the chiropractor, the veterinary chiropractor that worked on him, the first time she was out, she said, oh, there's no downward movement of the pelvis. And when I showed her this pelvis and the sacrum, she's like, wow. She's like, there would not have been any downward movement. And I said, you said that in your first evaluation of him. I have it in the documents. And she's like, oh, my fingers did good that day.
This is amazing, Deanna. And what a gorgeous way to honor him, too.
Yeah, there's just so much. Like the dentist, because his mouth was a mess. He was 14 when I got him, and his teeth were an absolute mess. And they expired like really young. Like by the time he was 20-ish, he just didn't have teeth anymore. And so to see what his skull did and to show the dentist, and actually another dentist who's a friend of mine, they just were like, that's amazing.
Well, I want to encourage everyone to check out Deanna's course. And that is such a generous offer for those who listen quickly to put in the code INSPIRED, and you'll definitely be able to see all this information in the show notes. So do jump on that. And she was very kind and let me look at the videos as well. And I've already implemented some of the things I've learned. So no matter what level you are, you're going to learn things. So I really want to encourage you to check it out.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you again so much for being here. And I want to ask you, just for fun, if you were a horse, how would you describe yourself?
This is really funny that you asked me this, because I have this weird thing with my friends that I designate a horse breed to them. I mean, I don't like tell them because they'll think it's weird because they're not horse people. But like my one friend, he is just a jack of all trades. Like he can literally do anything, and he's super easy to get along with. Everybody likes him. And so he's a quarter horse. And then I have another friend, and she's sassy, she's loud. If you know, if she's in a room, you know she's there, and she's just not going to take any bull from anyone. And she's the Appaloosa. And then my other friend, he's really a big guy. Like he doesn't work out, but just he has a lot of muscle bulk by nature, and he doesn't always realize it. And so like he'll give you a hug and he'll pat you on the back, but it's like being pawed around by a bear sometimes. It's not even comfortable. That he's kind of a little bit like Lenny from Mice and Men, and he's a Percheron. So myself, if you've only seen me online, I'm really tall. I'm 6'1", and I'm really lanky, and I'm high energy, and I just go and go and go. I have a lot of work ethic, but you have to treat me well. You know, like I don't tolerate any nonsense either. And I'm a little spicy, so I'm a thoroughbred mare.
I love that so much. I'm going to have to start playing that game too, because that's really fun.
Yeah. One of my other horse friends, she was in on it with me too. We started it together.
That's brilliant. Well, Deanna, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in, and please do check out the show notes and learn all about Deanna. And if you'd like to learn more about Inspired Riding, please check out the website, inspiredriding.com. Thanks again so much for listening. And remember to lead with kindness for yourself and for your horse. And may the horse be with you always.